Two best friends, Grace and Zoe, are in Zoe's dorm situated in Grayson House. As Zoe is organizing her closet, Grace goes through the pictures of Zoe's vacation. On the computer screen, a Halloween party for Grace pops up just when Zoe accidentally drops some weight discs on the floor. Grace thinks that Zoe's computer is infected with a virus, but Zoe assures her that it's just a Halloween meme. Zoe tells her that she needs to write down her greatest fear before the 30-second timer runs out, or else her fear will come alive. Grace tries putting in some irrelevant words, but the meme does not accept the answer unless it's true. Only after she answers vagina spider as her biggest fear, it accepts her answer and she's saved. Grace asks Zoe what her worst fear is. At first, Zoe says she fears nothing, but she finally reveals that her worst fear is pigs. She then tells Grace the story of her childhood and how she developed the phobia. It turns out there was a mean old farmer who didn't feed his animals properly. One day, that drunken farmer falls into the pig pen full of starving pigs who are capable of eating anything. A few days later, the pigs are gone and no one knows where they went. Zoe continues telling the story and says that she heard noises and saw figures in the woods behind her house. Grace doesn't fall for her story, but still, Zoe persists that she really did see something back then. Zoe gets the pop-up meme on her phone, but since Grace has not seen the witch that appears on the screen, she lets the counter hit 0. And just then, an animated green witch appears that says that her worst fear is coming to get her. After that, Grace drops Zoe at her workplace, where Zoe's co-worker Vicky is waiting for her. They work in a clothing store in a mall. As Zoe's busy with her work, she gets some texts from Vicky, but Zoe thinks that Vicky might have accidentally sent her the message. She then gets 2 photos, one of which contains a shadow outlined in a pig mask. Confused by this, she decides to check on her friend, but she gets scared by the lurking shadow and retreats back to the store. When Zoe checks on the CCTV footage, she sees Vicky being dragged around the counter, and in the other cam, she sees a man with a pig mask staring at the camera before breaking it. Zoe gets terrified and tries to run out of the store, but unfortunately, the store is locked from the outside. Now, her worst fear, the pig man, has come to greet her, and it's the last thing that she sees before being killed. The next morning, Grace is devastated by the news of Zoe's death and is stunned to learn that a pig mask was captured at the crime scene. At this point, she believes that Zoe's murder has something to do with that Halloween meme. Of course, she did try to let the cops know about it, but they don't trust her claims at all. Now, it's been 3 weeks with no progress from the police. Frustrated by the delay, Grace decides to step up herself and seek help from one of the computer geeks to look into the Halloween virus. She then goes to meet Spencer, who's the smartest guy in the computer science department. She tells him her side of the story and how brutally Zoe had been murdered. Spencer quickly searches to see if he can find any lead about the Halloween meme, but nothing comes up on a Google search. He's astounded that whoever created the meme can alter Google searches. Not that smart, eh? Anyway, he then asks to see Zoe's phone, but Grace tells him that the police have it for investigation. But since the meme also popped up on her computer, Grace asks Spencer to come with her and have a look at it. They reach Zoe's dorm, and while Spencer's working on the computer, Grace notices the disheveled closet and thinks that the cops have turned the closet upside down. Darren comes over to Grace and expresses his sympathy for Zoe's death. And just then, the Halloween meme pops up on the computer screen, and this time, with Darren's name on it. Spencer records it on his phone as Darren tries a couple of words that are not accepted by the meme. Eventually, the timer runs out of time, so he gets the witch in return. After Darren leaves, Spencer decides to take the hard drive to his lab for further inspection. As they're exiting the dorm, they meet Court and the boys. Court and Darren just so happen to be from the same school as Spencer. He then invites Grace and Spencer to the Halloween party that they're organizing. As Spencer walks Grace to her car, she tells him that she's glad the meme didn't work for Darren, despite entering his worst fear. Spencer has known Darren since they were 5, so he's sure that Darren's worst fear is not what he typed in earlier. He says that Darren's worst fear is the tall man and reveals the story behind it. While they were kids, there was a tall man who used to watch the children playing in the playground every day. But one day, he came to Darren and tried to take him forcefully. However, a friend's dad came just in time, so Darren was saved from getting kidnapped. Listening to the story, Grace feels bad that Darren had to go through such a traumatic event in his childhood. The next day, Darren is restless and can't seem to concentrate in the class. For some reason, he's very anxious and keeps looking outside of the window. Just then, he spots someone in the distance, a tall man standing near the fence. Darren freaks out as the man starts walking towards him, and it triggers the memory from the past. Scared out of his mind, He makes a scene and runs out of the class. Next, Spencer calls Grace to the lab and discloses that the Halloween meme virus forwards itself. He then sends an email to a random contact to check if someone gets the saved screen. He also shows her that the meme contains a rune of the cross in the box, which depicts a demon. Pre-Christianity, demons used to be considered the people born of suffering, and enormous pain made them powerful. Another thing that he's noticed is the frame glitch that reveals a shadowy picture of 5 people, but they still could not make anything out of the picture. At that moment, Grace and Spencer come to know about Darren's death as the cops have come to the campus. Apparently, Darren had made a scene, shouting that someone had come to kill him, and eventually he was found dead in the playground. Hearing this news, both of them are stunned to the core. Grace realizes that whenever the meme has appeared, it was in Zoe's room, so she thinks that there must be something about her room. And to figure this out, she goes back to Zoe's room with Spencer. When they reach her room, Spencer tells her that he already looked into her drive, so Grace tells him to check the cords. Right then, she notices a dumbbell lying in the middle of the room that was supposed to be inside the closet. Spencer instructs Grace to watch the screen as he starts knocking on the wall. But when he throws the discs on the floor, the Halloween meme suddenly appears on the screen, and this time with Grace's name on it. Since Spencer has unplugged the cord of the mouse and keyboard earlier, Grace faces a crisis entering her fear as the time is ticking. Fortunately, she makes it before the timer hits 0, but now Spencer is aware of Grace's worst fear. Later, she clarifies her fear to Spencer to clear the air out. Now that they know that the floor is the trigger, Spencer carefully cuts the carpet and finds bricks on the floor. To find out the secret beneath the bricks, they go to the campus library and get their hands on the building blueprint. From this, it's revealed that the Grayson house used to be part of the old hospital, a palliative care that used to house dying children. The librarian also uncovers that the last of the balloon babies were kept there. It turns out that balloon babies were the newborns affected by the chemical leak in the 1980s. Some babies grew flesh uncontrollably as they grew up, while others were severely disfigured. She also provides them with a book and a documentary about it. Later that day, they watch the documentary, which highlights 5 different disabled children. Grace notices computers in one of the photos and also sees the Halloween party picture in the book. Then they decide to talk to Dr. Arthur McHale, who's worked in the hospital and appeared in the documentary. Within no time, Spencer tracks down his number and dials it. The timing is just perfect, as it's Halloween the next day. Dr. Barbara McHale, the wife of Dr. Arthur, welcomes them and they have a chat about the kids in the book. Barbara reveals that they called the kids the Halloween party, and with masks and hoods on, every day was Halloween for them. As the kids grew up, they turned monstrous and wanted to hurt people. They resented everyone, and the company that was responsible for their condition forgot about them. Then Barbara tells them that the remaining 5 kids took themselves off of the assisted care, implying they committed suicide. Now it's time for them to meet Arthur, who's bound to the equipment for his survival. They cut to the chase and show him the picture, and Grace asks if he recognizes the people in it. As soon as he sees the photo, Dr. Arthur has a cardiac arrest and he shouts at them to leave. But before they exit the house, Barbara gives Grace a Garuda as a charm of luck and protection. Let's unpack the story here. Grace's closet is the grave of some disfigured kids who are trying to seek revenge on the world through a computer virus that actually works. Pretty heavy stuff. So Grace suggests that they delete the virus and fix the bricks before someone else disturbs the grave. After deleting everything related to the meme, the only thing that's left is to delete the forwarded emails from Spencer's laptop. But before Spencer reaches the lab, some of the boys have used his laptop to see the meme. And on top of that, an email is forwarded to Garrett from Court's group. Then Spencer goes to meet Garrett at Court's Halloween party. He asks Garrett if he's checked his phone for any mail. Since Garrett's phone is upstairs, he's not checked it yet, so Spencer asks for his email and tells him to put in his password without hitting enter. But Garrett does exactly the opposite of what he's told, and the Halloween meme appears. With urgency in his voice, Spencer tells him to enter his worst fear, that prompts him to enter his alcoholic mother, revealing his past. Since the screen shows saved, the email is now forwarded to Spencer, but the boys do not let him type anything. He asks Garrett to type the Halloween party, but to get even with him for the humiliation, Garrett does not help him and the counter hits 0. As Spencer's about to leave, he tells the boys that they're all going to die now. He tries to contact Grace, but since she's not picking up, he leaves her a message. On his way, he sees a bunch of kids in costumes and gets terrified. Meanwhile, Court and Mike are killed by the Halloween party. On the other hand, Spencer makes it to his dorm and sees kids in all sorts of costumes grabbing treats in the doorway. He's petrified when he sees one kid with a weird skeleton mask right outside the door. But when he realizes that he's just a normal child, Spencer runs to his room. On the other hand, Grace gets into the bathtub after leaving her phone to charge. But the phone is not properly plugged in, leaving her with an extremely low battery. When she takes a look at Spencer's message, she immediately calls him and asks him to come to the parking lot in 5 minutes. However, Grace is spooked by the shadow behind the shower curtain. One of the Halloween party has come to haunt her, but she somehow escapes and makes it to the parking lot. Meanwhile, as Spencer makes his way downstairs, he sees scattered treats and someone gnawing at Ms. Violet. He immediately runs for his life and meets Grace at the parking lot. But unfortunately, some other uninvited guests have been waiting for them too. When driving away is out of the option, they run into one of the campus buildings and reach the basement. As the light goes out, they have to rely on an infrared duct camera and Grace's dying phone, since Spencer left his phone in her van. In the dark, they search for an outlet to charge her phone, but before they could find one, the phone dies. However, they do find one lighter to help them out. With the lighter flame, the duo look around and find themselves in the hospital wing, and they're shocked to find the balloon boy in the room. Terrified at the sight, the two run for their lives, but in the process, they lose the lighter. Next, they follow the red glowing light and enter the room, where they find a power outlet and charge the phone for some time. Looking at the Garuda and bird picture drawn by the patient, it finally dawns on Grace that the balloon babies just wanted to be free and realize that the hospital bricked them in the basement. Now, Grace and Spencer have to get to Zoe's room to stop all this madness, but before they can come out of this dark underground, Spencer gets caught and is killed. Eventually, Grace makes it to the room, but the Halloween party is right outside the door trying to break it down. She slams the discs at the bricks several times, finally breaking them and freeing the trapped souls of the kids. The next day, Grace goes to Dr. McCall to return the Garuda charm. She notifies that she's freed the patients, so everything will be all right from now on. When Barbara hears her, she explodes in anger and shouts at her if she realizes what she's done. Barbara reveals that they've bricked the children in the basement in order to protect the people. Grace can no longer stay in that place, so she takes the flight, trying to escape. Little does she know, what was limited to Zoe's room and her computer is now out in the open. She's shaken to the core when she sees every screen on the plane has the same Halloween meme asking people to enter their greatest fear. Grace tells the flight attendant that they have to land right now, or else they'd be killed. There's this Chinese couple whose worst fear is the spider and the bear, but they don't enter it into the meme. Now, you can guess how it ends.